Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where we are going to take a deep dive into marketing accelerators for Act Advantage. We'll begin in just about 1 minute. We're going to allow a minute or two for everybody to join this webinar, so stay with us and we'll start shortly. All right, we are at the top of the hour, and there's a lot to cover today, so let's get started. I just want to thank you all for joining us today for our webinar today. My name is Brent Milner, and I'm going to be your host as we do a deep dive into Act Advantage, the new CRM and front office suite that we introduced this past spring. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. Because of our audience, our large audience here, we've muted everybody's lines. So we encourage you to ask questions in the Q&A panel of Zoom at any time during this session. If you're having a hard time finding it, go to your Zoom panel and it's under the More button on the right. You'll find the Q&A panel there. So please feel free to ask questions during the presentation. We've got Emma and Kirsten online, and they're going to help answer each of those questions either at real time during the presentation or towards the end. We're also recording this event today. We're going to send it to you at the email address that you used when you registered. We're also going to post it on our website at act.com/explore, and I'll explain that at the end of the webinar today. Again, my name is Brent Milner. I've been working here at ACT for 20 years. I live up in Flagstaff, where we just got our first snow last night. And so here we go. It's wintertime, I guess. But I'm excited to introduce today Act Advantage to you. And if you're not already familiar with it, um, uh, I want to introduce it to you because it's truly the most significant advancement for ACT really in the last decade. Act Advantage expands Act's reach outside of the four walls of any traditional CRM. It positions it at the center of all of your relationship management activities across your entire front office. It fuses together in one solution your customer data with your sales processes, your marketing outreach, your website, your accounting system, customer service functions, and more. This is giving you maximum efficiency and productivity. Just think of it really as an entire business in a box. New features like interactive quotes, online appointment scheduling, email list verification, surveys, web forms and events, project management, accounting integration, and even a customer portal. This means that Act Advantage is an all-in-one relationship management solution. So rather than having to manage and pay for a bunch of disconnected point solutions, you now have everything you need inside Act in one easy-to-use place. You've probably heard the saying that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and Act Advantage is a great example of this, as it can help you extend your marketing reach, drive deals through the pipeline faster, and even manage your relationships more effectively. So we're really excited about this, and our customers are loving it so far. We like to think about Act Advantage as delivering value through three categories of functionality, and that's sales, marketing, and productivity accelerators. In today's session, we're going to focus on the marketing accelerators, or the new functionality that helps you better attract, convert, and then stay engaged with your customers and your prospects. Last month, we talked about sales accelerators, and next month in December, we're going to cover productivity accelerators. So please make sure that you sign up for and attend the webinar next month. And you can also check out the recordings on our website at any time as well. But let's take a look at the marketing accelerators in Act Advantage. The marketing features in Act Advantage are really powerful in that they help drive ongoing engagement with customers and prospects across mediums like your website, your emails, and maybe any surveys that you want to create. And all of these digital interactions are captured inside Act, which both enriches your understanding of each customer and also lets you prioritize and then take action quickly because everything is managed in one place, as opposed to juggling disconnected apps, which can be cumbersome and costly. So, thinking about your website and emails, with Act Advantage, you can now quickly create forms that capture information from new leads, instantly create or update your contact records, and then automatically trigger follow up actions that you define. And more than likely, your prospects are also looking at one or more of your competitors. So the level of responsiveness that this enables is a key differentiator. Another way to engage with and convert your prospects is using the website chat feature in Act. You can live chat with site visitors during the hours that you define. You can automatically log chat history in Act and then automate follow-up activities to continue the conversation as you progress to a sale. One follow-up option is to leverage another new feature, and that is our online surveys. So what better way to understand the needs of your prospects than to just ask them for feedback or to tell you more about their business so that you can tailor your approach and then recommend the appropriate product or service to them. And last but not least, of course, is Act Marketing. It's a robust email marketing solution that's been available with Act for some time now, but it's now included in Act Advantage. For Act Marketing, a new integrated list verification service helps you verify and then clean up your email lists right inside Act. And this helps your deliverability, reduce your bounce rates, and then keep your contact data accurate. We've done several webinars on Act Marketing in the past, so be sure to check those out to get up to speed on all the features and benefits that Act Marketing provides. With Act Advantage, all of the marketing tools that you need to attract and convert new or repeat business, they're built right inside Act, and they deliver great value. And so what I'm going to do today is we're going to take a closer look, and we're going to jump into a live Act Advantage database to show you these 5 tools, beginning with Web Lead Forms. Now, Web Lead Forms is available in all tiers of Act Advantage, and Web Lead Forms allow you to create online forms that can be used to capture valuable contact data. This could take the form of a survey, an inquiry, maybe subscriptions, registrations to events, and much more. All of the information that is captured is then fed straight into your Act database. This allows you to automatically create new contacts, assign them to groups in Act, and then create history records for those contacts and much more. I want to take a look at a form that I created. It's a monthly newsletter form, so I'm going to go to my additional features area. And from here, I'm going to click Web Lead Forms. I've got a few forms here, but the one I want to look at today is called Monthly Newsletter Sign Up. So I'm going to edit this button to have a look at it. From here, you can preview your form at any time. There's a little preview button in the top right corner. This will launch that form in a new tab. And so here's what my form it looks like, and I'll show you how I built this in just a second. But you can put your company's logo at the top. You can introduce this form with some text, and then put as many fields as you want here. Now, for a monthly newsletter sign up, I probably don't need to include address and city and state, but I just wanted to show all the contact fields here to give you kind of an idea of what a layout might look like. On a form like this, you can also couple it with some survey questions. So I asked some simple questions like how long have you been open? How many events do you host each year, and more. And then at the bottom, you can use a CAPTCHA verification system just to make sure you're not getting bogged down with the robot posts. But let's take a look now at how this form was created. So when we're editing a form, there's several tabs at the top, and we're gonna look at a few of these. On the General tab at the top, here's the link to my form that I could share with anybody. Or if I want to, I could just embed this form on my website by using this code snippet Down below here, I can enable or disable this form at any time, turn it on and turn it off with the click of a button. So that's a great way to shut off any form if you don't want it to be live any longer. The column count here, this lets me set up the layout of that form. So you might remember that I had 3 columns in my form. This really lets you determine the max number of columns that you want to appear when you're laying out that form. Over on the right is the logo that I input, and then the introductory text at the top of the form, the footer text that appears beneath the form, and then there's closing text. So after they submit this form, what do you want to display to them? You can either put some text here, or you can have Act forward them to a specific web page that you designate here. Beneath that, there are some submission options. One of those is the existing contacts only. So this is what determines whether Act is going to create a new contact or not based on the form submission. If I have this box checked and that person doesn't exist in Act, then it will not accept their form. So I usually like to keep this unchecked so that I can create new contacts on the fly. You can also choose to prevent multiple submissions so that one person can't submit the form multiple times. And you can do different kinds of verification. You could use an email verification, which sends them an email that they have to respond to, or you can just use the simple CAPTCHA verification that I displayed. One of the great things about this is when a contact submits a form to you, you can automatically assign them to a group in Act. And since I'm going to use this form later with an email campaign in Act, this is the group that I'm going to assign to that email campaign for my newsletter. So it's all done here in one area. I don't have to set up any additional groups or create anything. This is going to happen automatically. Act is going to assign each contact to that group for me, which will automatically enroll them into that campaign later on. And then at the bottom, there's follow-up. So if your forms require a phone call follow-up, you can set that up here, or any other activity type that you may have in Act. At the top, let's look at the contact fields section. Here are all the fields that I put on my form. Like I said before, I probably didn't need to include all of these just for a simple newsletter sign up, but I wanted to include them here to show you what those entail. You can edit any of these by clicking the edit button on the left, and then you can change how it's laid out, how many columns it should span, and so forth. And here's where you can also add Act field mapping. So for my suite unit field, I know that's going to map to the address to field in Act. On the questions tab, here's where I added a few survey questions, which we're going to get into later when we talk about surveys. I'll go through each of these and show you how these are built. We also have an appearance where you can choose the kind of layout that you want. You can customize styles. Really, you can get into some fine details here of how you want each color to look on the screen, whether it's the border of the field or the background color, things like that. This lets you really customize that and brand it to your company's colors. If you want to create an opportunity record from a form submission, this will let you do that as well. So you just check this box, make sure you give that opportunity a name, and then every time somebody submits that form to you, Act will automatically create an opportunity, and it will assign it to whatever process and stage that you desire. So let's create one of these forms. Let's submit this. I'm going to go to my actions menu here. I'm going to copy this link, and then I'm going to paste it in a new window here. And we're just going to submit this form using some data that I have. One of the companies that I use, or one of the contacts that I use, is Jesse Custer. So I'm just going to put in some of his details here, and I've got it in another window so I don't have to type everything out at least. We'll put in his phone number. And his address. Flagstaff, where I live, and his zip code. And then down below, let's answer some survey questions. So Jesse's company's been open for 2 to 5 years. Maybe he hosts 2 to 5 events each year. And I also asked, what kind of items do you sell to your customers? So I could put a couple items in here. And then beneath that, I could ask him, what's your biggest challenge that hinders you from greater profitability? We'll just say name recognition. We'll click I'm not a robot and then submit this form. After that form is submitted, ACT will either create a contact record for me or update a current contact record. And then it gives the text, the closing text that I presented in the previous screen. So now what I want to do is I want to look up this contact. So I'm going to look up Jesse, and we'll see what ACT has done in the background here. As I go to his contact record, I'm going to click the History tab. Now, one thing I want to make sure you understand is that history collected from a form like this is in a specific history type. So what I need to do is make sure I display the history type for this for these forms. And when we filter the histories, it's going to be under the history type, under e-marketing, under campaign, and it's called web activity. That will display forms and survey histories. Once I do that, we'll see that we have this monthly newsletter sign up that was just completed today by Jesse. And then I can extrapolate the details from this form over here in the preview area. Now, there are other areas where we can view the results of this form. You don't have to use this. I can see it's just kind of a lot of text jumbled together. There are other places where we can look this up and it's a little bit cleaner. But what I really want to show is that this history shows up on Jesse Custer's detail view. One other thing that we've done here is we've added Jesse to a group automatically. So if I go to my groups area in ACT, I can open up this Linktivity group, go to the forms area, and we'll see I have a monthly newsletter sign up group, which will now include everybody who signed up for this form. And it should include Jesse. Sometimes there's a little, there it is. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay as it adds this, but there he is. He's going to be a member of this group now. And as I said earlier, remember, this is the group I'm going to use when I build out my monthly newsletter in ACT Marketing. This is the group I'm going to assign to that. So it's important that when my customers and prospects submit this form to me, it's crucial that they automatically get added to this group because I don't want to have to manually manage that later on. I want ACT to do all of this for me so that I can focus on other things. And we can see that it's working here. So that's good news for me. Now, if I go back to my forms area in the additional features in ACT under web lead forms, there's a couple other things I want to show you here. What are the results? So each of these forms, as customers and prospects submit forms back to you, ACT has some reporting that we can look at. This will show me how they've answered my survey questions. But over on the right, I can also click submissions to see each person's submission, the date that they submitted to me, who it was, what their contact information is, and so forth. Of course, this is exportable. If I want to export it to a spreadsheet and then maybe give it to an intern to do follow-ups, that's a perfect way to use this. But we have, the submissions area and then the summary area, which gives us our charts, which you can also switch to a bar chart if you like that better. Now, I want to take a quick look at an example of another form that I had created. We're not going to go into as much detail with this form, but I'm going to use this form later on, and that is my chat satisfaction form. What I'm doing here is once a customer engages with me in my online website chat, which we're going to look at, I want to have the option to send them a follow-up survey just to ask them how satisfied they were with the chat session that they were in. Did you wait for a long time for someone to show up? Did the chat agent clearly answer your primary questions or not? And then we have the 5-star rating and any additional details that they want to provide for that. This is useful because then the customer understands that I care about their experience, but it also helps me follow up with my own team to say, hey, we're not doing this the best. Here's some tips that we can do internally to improve the customer experience. So that chat is going to be hugely useful going forward as my customers start using my chat feature. Now, once customers submit any forms like this to you, whether it's a newsletter sign up or a chat satisfaction form or anything else, the online reporting feature will let us interpret those responses. And also, we're going to receive a notification via email that includes customer responses so that I won't miss any data with any forms that are submitted to me. All right, let's skip now to online surveys. Now, again, this is available in all tiers of Act Advantage. The online surveys module lets you easily collect valuable customer feedback through surveys that you customize and that integrate easily with ACT. You can even set up decision trees that adapt your survey based on customer responses. So this way, your customers will only see relevant questions, and it really increases their engagement and it reduces what we call survey drop offs. I want to look at a survey today that I'm going to send out to my most engaged customers. So, in the upcoming new year, I want to expand the line of products that I offer at my company. But first, I want to get some input from my customers on which products might interest them the most. So, what I've done is I've designed a survey that asks about general products. And then, based on their response, it expands into greater detail to that general question. So, let's have a look at my survey. In the additional features area of ACT, I'm going to click Online Surveys. And the survey that I created is called New Products 2026. Now, this time I'm just going to begin uh, by submitting this survey. I'm going to copy this link because the best way to show you this is to just do it. This is a 2-page survey. So on the first page of my survey, I'm gathering their contact information. And then when they continue to the second page, that's where I really start asking the questions that I'm interested in. So we're going to submit this from Jesse once again. Let me just copy his email address so that I don't have to fumble through typing it. There we go. And he's at Mountaintop Tap Room. And his phone number is okay. And then we'll use this CAPTCHA verification and click continue. So now ACT checks to make sure there's a contact record. If not, it can create one for me. And it's going to take me now to the second page of my survey where I have the questions that I want to ask. Now, you can make these questions required or not. The way I set this up is the scale, the rating questions, I made those required. And then the follow-up questions, I did not make required. So I want to know if my customers have any interest in 3 areas of products that I'm offering: glassware, clothing, and random merchandise. So there's a star rating for each. And then next to that, I have a drop down to say, of that topic, which one most interests you. If they select any of these specific items, ACT is going to automatically add them into a corresponding group for that specific product. So, for example, with Jesse, he's going to say he's got a 10-star rating for glassware and he's interested in the tankard. For clothing, maybe he's a 7 or 8 star and he's going to choose hoodies. So I have a group called hoodies where now Jesse will be added to that group. And so as this form goes out, this survey goes out and people submit it to me, I will learn who's interested in which product so that I can really follow up with them within an email campaign and market to them directly. They've already expressed interest to me. So what's happening here is ACT is gift wrapping this ideal audience to me based on how they've answered these questions. And then also I have an like kind of a catch-all. If there's any products we missed, they can just type that in there as well. I'm going to click continue. And now this survey will get submitted into ACT with my closing message here. So let's look at some basics at how I built this survey. I'm going to edit this. And on the General tab, you'll see that this is very familiar to what we saw in Forms just a minute ago with our Enable button and a lot of the other things that you see here. Down below, we still assign context to a group. So I have a group in ACT called New Products 2026. This will add everybody, regardless of how they answered on the survey. So it's key to understand that no matter what they put, they're going to be entered into this group. But as I get into my questionnaire, you're going to see how I can fine-tune additional groups based on their survey responses. In the contact follow-up area, I have included a follow-up call activity to take place 2 days after the survey is submitted. So this will automatically put this on my calendar as a reminder. Hey, you've got to call this person who submitted this survey to you. On the questionnaire tab, this is where I can build the questions for my survey. And so you can see I've broken it up into two pages. The first page just deals with their contact details, but the meat of the survey is on this second page, where I can ask each of these questions. I can determine whether those responses are required or not. And then in the second question, I have my drop-down list of what should be available there. Down below is really the most interesting part for me anyway, and this includes my triggers. So here's some triggers that I built. The first one is if anybody chose two or less on all three of the questions I have at the top, if they gave me a rating scale of two or less of their interest, then what I'm basically saying is they're not interested. So I'm going to bypass the remaining triggers and I'm done with those customers or prospects. But if they rated me higher than two on any of these products, then what I'm going to do is whatever they chose in the second dropdown, I'm going to add them to a group that I've created in Act. So in the example that I did here, Jesse chose that he's interested in hoodies. So Act is going to add him to a group called Hoodies 2026. And this is fantastic because now, like I said before, this is a very, very detailed and finely tuned group, which I can market to and have a lot of success. There are some other trigger-based actions that you can do here. For example, I could send them to a specific web page. I could show a message on screen. I could create an activity in Act and more based on the responses that they put here as in my surveys. Now, after customers submit the survey to me, I can, of course, look at the results instantly. We saw this over in the forums area. This is kind of like the same thing. We can see these results. I can generate charts for each of these questions, and I can export these results to a spreadsheet, whether I'm looking at the summary details or the specific submissions that we got here. But what I want to do is also go to the contacts area of Act, and I'm going to go into my groups. We're going to find this hoodies group, 2026, and we'll see here that Jesse has been added to that group as somebody who has expressed interest in my hoodie clothing item for the upcoming year. If I click on Jesse's name, we'll go back to his contact detail view, and we can see now a new history has been written as a web activity result, which tells me he submitted this new product survey to me on today's date at this time, with, again, the details on the right showing me what were the answers that he gave on the survey. So that takes us full circle with surveys. The next thing I want to talk about here is website chat. Now, website chat is available in all tiers of Act Advantage, and it allows you to add a chat service to your website, which then fully integrates with Act Advantage. When one of your customers joins the chat, this is going to instantly link to their contact record in Act. And then once the chat is closed, the details of that chat session can then be immediately recorded as a transcript to their history record in Act. Let's have a look at this and how this works. This one's really kind of fun. When I go to the additional features in Act, I'll click website chat to have a look at it. Now you can see that I already have some conversations. If you're just joining this for the first time, you won't have this view. Act will prompt you to start by creating some channels and so forth. So you may have a different view if you're jumping in this right now. But let's do that. Let's look at some of the channels that I have here. So I've created two chat channels. One is for product inquiries and one is for support requests. And we're going to look at the specifics in just 1 minute. But before we do that, I also want to let you know you can create departments, which would then be kind of like subtopics within each chat. So I've created 8 departments, and I have 5 of them that fit within my products and 3 that fit within my support. Oh, no, it's the reverse. 3 in my products and 5 in support. So my product departments are going to include things like glassware and machinery and merchandise, whereas my support departments would include about us, account information, installation, orders, and shipping. Let's edit one of these just to see what that might look like. Let's edit the About Us. You can see here now you can assign team members to each department. So these are the people who would be responsible for monitoring this specific department within a chat channel. Now, you don't have to get as granular as this as I have. You could just leave it as two chat channels with no departments if you want, or you can get really detailed and split it up into different topics like this. This is a great way to kind of like fine tune specific questions so that the right team members are approaching the right chat channels. You can also set up templates here, which have different color palettes. I'm sorry, no, that's not for this. That's in a different area. But the templates let you create automatic answers for specific questions. So your most common questions will be things like, what are your business hours? Or how do I reset my password? Or can you give me contact information for somebody in sales? Things like that. This lets you create automatic responses for that, where I've done one for my business hours. And we'll see how that looks when I get into the chat. So let's go to the channels now. And I'm going to look at our support channel by clicking its edit button. Now here on the general tab, you'll see that ACT is going to assign a reference number for every chat conversation that takes place. You can put a prefix in there if you want to separate the different chat types for each conversation. So for support, I have SUP. For products, I think I have PRO. That just lets me quickly identify, oh, this was a support conversation that took place when I'm looking at the chat list as a whole. You can also require identification before someone can start chatting. That might be useful. If you just don't want anybody to chat, you might require them to give their name and email address or any other kind of information like that. And then down below, you can define which departments belong to this chat. So here's where I assigned in my support chat the About Us, account info, installation, and more departments within this chat. The advanced section lets you determine which contact identification fields we're going to ask for. So here I'm just asking for their name and email address. Those are required. And if they want to, they can give me their phone number and company name before the chat begins. And then down below, here is where I mentioned before. Remember when I created that chat satisfaction form at the beginning? Here's where I can assign a specific form to the chat. So this will allow me then to send them this survey at any time during the chat or automatically when the chat closes. That's very useful, again, like I mentioned before. System messages lets you customize any kind of messages that your customers would see. There are a lot of things in here. So when they join a department, they get a message that says you selected the About Us department or whatever it might be there. So there's a lot of different messages that you can include when people join chat, when they leave chat. If there's nobody available to monitor the chat, you can have a message there for that as well. And then over here is the style, which I was mentioning earlier, where you can set specific colors to each of your different chats. So your support chat could have different colors than your products chat and so on. Okay, let's go back to the main chat page. And I want to show you that there are 3 different ways that customers can examine the chat. So in the actions area, we'll look at support. Well, not the actions area. I want to look at this embed button right here in the middle. When you click that embed, this lets you choose how do you want to display your chat. The first one is chat pop-up. This will display a chat button on your website, and then you can determine the location, whether it's bottom left, center, or right. What that'll be is it'll just be a button at the bottom of the screen that says, chat with us. When they click that button, it expands upward, and then the chat session begins. You've probably seen this on websites before. A second option is the inline frame. This will display the chat session as an iframe on a specific page of your website. And then you can determine the width and the height that that frame should take on your website. The last one is link only. What this does is they will put a link on your website where they can copy this link or click this link, and it will open the chat in its own dedicated browser tab. And the settings area on the right lets you determine whether you want to automatically write a transcript to the contact's history when the conversation is closed, or you can email a transcript to the participants when the conversation is ended. So you have those two automatic actions that you can set here in the history area. So let's take a look at the chat. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this chat link, and then I'm going to go to my Conversations tab, and that way ACT will know that I'm monitoring the chat. So now that I've clicked on Conversations, ACT is saying, okay, Brent is logged in, so whatever departments he's signed into are now online. Every other department will be listed as offline when the customers go to that link. So now that I'm viewing this, I can paste the chat window or the chat link. And now as a customer, they're coming here and they're saying, okay, these are the 5 departments that I can look up right now because those are the ones I'm assigned to. So maybe they want to go and ask a question in the About Us department. When they click About Us, now they have to put in their name and their details before they can join the chat. So we're gonna say this is Kevin, and I'm gonna put in his email address as well because that's a required field. The other fields aren't really required. I could add in, stuff here if I need to. And then the message down below. Maybe Kevin's just going to ask me, what are your holiday hours? And then once he clicks submit, now that chat session will begin. And we're letting him know, thank you for filling out the form. You can send us messages and an agent will get back to you soon. So that's the view that Kevin's going to see. Now, if I toggle back to my ACT window, we'll see the view that I see. We'll see here is a new chat that's just opened up. You can tell because it's open. I could have notifications enabled. So when a new chat arrives, my Windows, my browser would notify me. But now that I see this, what I can do is click this chat to open it. Now, one thing I like to do, and I recommend doing, is clicking this little cog options button. Because what you can do here is open this chat in a new window. This is useful because it gives you a dedicated chat window to speak, to communicate with contacts. And then you can use this other window to look them up in ACT if you need to go into their contact details to view order histories, or any other kind of information that you might need. You have at least you won't have to bounce back and forth between coming back to the chat to interact with the customer. Some other things that you can do here, you can click this person icon, and what that will do is it will give you the details about this current chat, and I can even open contact details here. It'll put it in the left column, so while I'm chatting with him, I have the basic contact details about where he is and his phone number and things like that. If I wanted to view additional fields here, I could do that as well. I can also invite other agents if I want to include somebody else at my company into this chat, or if I want to just completely assign this chat to a different agent from myself. You can click this bell if you want to monitor that chat. That will add it to the monitored area, which when I close the contact details, you'll see this list down below. It shows my watch list. So it shows me now this is one of the ones that I'm monitoring. Now, we could type an answer to Kevin down here in this text field below, or I could click the plus button. If I click this plus button, this takes me now to my predefined message templates. And so I've created one already for business hours. I could send this now, or I could modify it because he asked me about holiday hours. I could also include our holiday hours are the same, except we're closed on Christmas. Whatever that might be. Now, when I click send, it's going to send this chat back to Kevin. If I view this from Kevin's viewpoint, he'll see this response came back to him here. And if he's satisfied with that, he can then click the end chat button at the top. They'll get a confirmation. Do you want to end this conversation now? He'll say, okay. And then he gets a reference number. If he ever has to call us again about this inquiry, he can refer to this number, SUP 0004. Now, if I had automatically uh, had a chat survey pop up at the end, it would appear here. I haven't automated that in this specific chat. But when I come back to my view, it tells me that the conversation has been ended. What I can do from here is I can do a few things. I can email the chat transcript to Kevin. I could schedule a follow-up activity and act with him, or I could even send this customer satisfaction survey to him. If I click this last one and say yes, okay, we'll see that this survey has now appeared in the chat. Now, hopefully he hasn't closed the window. If he's left it open, he'll see now that there is a button where he can now use to access that survey and then fill it out for my edification later on. The last thing I want to do here is just look up Kevin in Act to show the history that is recorded once a chat session has ended. So when I go to his detail view, I will have his chat history here as, again, a web activity result. So make sure you're using your filters to display web activity types. And again, that is located under the history types, under e-marketing, campaign, web activity. That one should be enabled if you want to see those history types appear in the history area. So here's that chat transcript. I can see the date and time that it took place, and the questions and answers are all filled out here. We may try to clean this up to just do better line breaks to make this look a little nicer, but at least all the details are here for you to view if you need to see that later on. The next thing I want to show you here is email list verification. So the email list verification module, this is really just used as an online email scrubber for your ACT database. It uses a third-party email validation tool. And what it's doing is it's going to help you so that you can trust your data by validating the email addresses in your ACT database. What happens is ACT will look at the results of the validation, and it's going to write that result into a custom field in ACT. This way you can search through your contacts and then make any changes that are needed to the email fields. I recommend using this module, especially if you're going to make frequent use of email campaigns in ACT. It's better to look at a list and verify it before you send out an email. Otherwise, you're going to get tons of bounces and other kind of errors. So validate your groups, your email lists, before you send out your emails. Now, all tiers of ACT Advantage can access this module, but the way it works is you're going to get a certain number of email scans per month, and each tier of ACT Advantage increases the number of scan per month limits that you have. So let's have a look at this. I'm going to go into my additional features area of ACT, and from here, I'm going to click Email List Verification. If you don't have a list yet, ACT will tell you you need to get started. There will be a button here that says Get Started, or you can just click the Settings button on the right to get into creating your first list. Now, there are two different verification types. There's a built-in verification within ACT, but some of you may already subscribe to Bright Verify. This is a company that does email verifications as well. If you subscribe to them, you can choose this and then log in, and then your scans will go through your subscription with them. Beneath that, it tells you how many scans you have available if you're using the built-in one. I think my plan allows me 5,000 per month. So every time I do a scan, it's going to subtract 1 for each email that's in that scan. Down below, ACT wants to create a new field for you so that it can write the results of each individual contact's scan. When you go through this step, it's going to suggest you name this field email address status. I think that's a great name for it, but you can name it anything you want. As you go through these steps, ACT will create that field for you in your database, and then it will assign the results of each scan to this field. And we'll see what that looks like. We're going to take a look at a list that I built earlier. It's called Monthly Newsletter, because this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan my monthly newsletter group before I send out my first email, or maybe I'll do it every month just to make sure that any new email addresses that have been added to my list are legit. So let's edit this to see what it looks like. Here's my name, Here's the contact group that I'm going to scan. It's the monthly newsletter sign up group that I created from my newsletter sign up form. So you can see how we're sort of cross-referencing and crisscrossing things from different sides of ACT to show you how it neatly integrates to all the different areas here. The scan mode lets me choose. Do I want to always process all of the contacts in this list? Or do I only want to process those that are new or basically unverified in my list? Um, there's pros and cons for this. Um, if you choose to process all of the list or all of the contacts in the list, then it's going to run more emails through the scan mode, and that's going to subtract more numbers from your monthly limit. So that could be a more costly option for you. If you choose the unverified contacts, it's only going to choose the new ones that it has never scanned before. So you just have to decide which way you want to go there. And then last, we have to verify automatically or not. So what this does is you can choose whether you want to automatically run this scan process, on a certain uh, automated schedule, whether you want to run it daily, weekly, or monthly. I'm going to choose none. I just want to manually do these myself for now until I kind of get comfortable with that. And then later on, maybe I'll choose to do it monthly on a specific day of the month. But for now, I'm just going to choose none. And we're going to run this manually. So let's click run here and we'll see what happens. It's looking at my list. It's telling me that there are 12 email addresses in that list. And when it's ready to start, I'm going to click start to verify these email addresses. As I click start, it's going through each of the contacts in that list, and it's looking at those email addresses to determine whether they're valid, whether they're invalid, or whether there's an error. Those are the three result types: error, invalid, or valid. And what that means is I need to do some research and make some corrections. So what I would do is reach out to each of these contacts to get a valid email address from them. But there's a really quick way to do this. What I've done in ACT is I've created groups based on the different result types. So if I go to my groups area, I have a group and I called it bad email addresses. And so when I look at this group, if I look at the rules that I used to create this group, we'll see that the rules are, let me just edit this to make it look a little bit nicer. The first rule is any contact whose email address status is equal to invalid, or any contact whose email address is equal to error should be added to this group. And as I run this scan frequently, things will happen. I'll get a list of all of the email addresses that either have an error or an invalid email address. So what I would want to do is contact them, probably by phone, since I can't email them, or maybe I will email them just to make sure that's a valid email address. And then once I get a response for them, I can edit this field to the correct email address, rerun the scan, and then the scan check will change to valid, and then this contact would be removed from my group. So that lets me manage and maintain my contacts to make sure that I have good email addresses from each of them. Finally, we're going to look at ACT Marketing Automation. This lets you create an email campaign that is targeted specifically to the audience that matters most every time. I'm going to look at a couple of campaigns based off of what we've already done so far in our webinar today. I'm going to look at one campaign that's based off our lead form for a newsletter. And then I'm going to look at another campaign that's based off of our survey for people who had interest in hoodies. So let's have a look. Let's jump into ACT once again. And we'll go into the marketing and communication area of ACT. Up until now, we've been in additional features, but now we're going to marketing and communication. And what we're going to do is click Create Campaigns. Now, the first campaign that I want to look at is my newsletter campaign. So as ACT is going to load, I think I have a lot of campaigns in here, so it's taking a little bit. But as ACT loads these, I'm going to search for news, and we'll see that here's a newsletter campaign that I created earlier this week. Here we see the workflow. This is a basic campaign where all I'm doing is I'm sending out an email each month. The way this works is when somebody submits that newsletter form to me for the first time, they're going to be added to this campaign because if I look at the properties of this campaign, we'll see that this campaign has been assigned to the monthly newsletter sign up group in ACT. So here it is again. When they submit that sign up for me, every contact gets added to that group. And as a result, they automatically get inserted into this campaign. So that's good news. That's what I want to have happen. As they get added into this campaign, they will be dropped into this start stage. From there, they will instantly receive my first newsletter. And the way I've set this up is to just let them know, here's what to expect from our monthly newsletters. Let me take a look at this one. They're going to get kind of a sample newsletter immediately so that they can see, oh, this is what I'm going to see every month. The subject is titled Your First Cloudwalker Newsletter. That's the name of my company. And as this newsletter opens up, they'll get the details, monthly newsletter. And I tell them that every month they're going to get a discount. They're going to see an online article about what other things are happening in the industry, and then they'll see a calendar of events that other companies like theirs are doing each month. So maybe this will help them get ideas. Down below, I have links to my social media, and really that's pretty much it. Very, very simple newsletter that's easy to design. When you're designing newsletters like this, or any kind of email like this, you can use the rows tab at the right to determine the structure of it. All you have to do is click and drag items over, and it'll build that row for you. Then from there, you can use the content tab to drag and drop additional items over. Maybe you want to put an image in here. Maybe you want to put in a paragraph of text here. You can also use the AI feature to help you write paragraphs of text if you want. There's a lot of neat options inside these newsletters. Inside these email templates that you can use to design attractive templates quite easily. As we go back to my workflow, we'll see that that was the instant first newsletter they received. From that point on, ACT is going to look at each of these arrows which define the dates when that next stage should appear. So if they enter this workflow before January 6th of 2026, then they'll be in line to receive my first newsletter in January. But let's say some time has passed and now we're in the middle of February and they sign up to receive my newsletters. Well, ACT isn't going to send them the January one. That wouldn't make sense. It's going to look for the next eligible date. So if it's the middle of February, ACT is going to skip these first two and it's going to drop them in line to receive the newsletter on March 3rd. I've set this up so that my newsletters will go out on the first Tuesday of each month. So that's a great way to build a simple newsletter style campaign for your contacts. But I have another type of campaign that I want to look at. And this type of campaign is just a little bit smarter than the simple newsletter campaign. This one is going to be for my hoodies. So as you recall, when they submitted the survey to me saying they had interest in hoodies, what I wanted to make sure I did was enroll them into a campaign for that specific product. If I look at the meat and potatoes of this campaign by looking at its properties, we'll see that I've assigned this to the Hoodies 2026 group. So anybody who answered hoodies on my survey gets put into the hoodies group. And then as a result of that, they're going to receive this campaign. This campaign is a little bit different. Let me change the orientation here to horizontal. When they get entered into this campaign, they're going to instantly receive an email from me. And there's an important part of this email that I want to make sure I point out. So in this email, I'm going to explain what this product is, when it's available, what sort of options that they have when they purchase it. And all they need to do is click this button that says, I want hoodies. It points to a hoodies page on my website, but it's going to do a lot more than that. The key to this email is whether they click this button or not. I want hoodies. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Because I have a decision stage here in this campaign. So I send the email out. I'm going to wait 7 days. And then if they clicked that button, I want hoodies within that 7 days, I'm going to move them up this yes branch where I'm going to do some more stuff. If they didn't click that I want hoodies button within the 7 days of receiving that email, I'm going to move them down to the no branch where I don't have anything for them yet. So for them, this campaign will end, but I could later on come back and add some stages for that too. If they did click yes within that time limit, I have it set to send out an activity, a call activity to one of my sales managers, where I've even put in a script here that says what the sales manager should kind of say to them when they call them. So this is going to be useful for following up with somebody who has clicked this button and and followed up with my hoodies. Now, I consider this a pre-qualified sales call because if you think about it, these customers have done two things. First, they've indicated interest in my hoodies on that original survey that I showed you at the very beginning of this webinar. They said they were interested in hoodies. So because of that, I sent them through this campaign. And then after receiving this email, they clicked the button. So the second thing they did is they clicked the button to say they want hoodies. So for my sales team, this is a slam dunk. This is the kind of lead that makes their job a cinch. So we greatly appreciate seeing so many of you here today on this webinar. And I want to tell you each month we do this. This is our regular training webinar schedule. You can visit us at act.com/explore to do a couple things. You can sign up for upcoming webcasts. We have another one, like I mentioned, in December, where we're going to be talking about productivity accelerators. You don't want to miss that one. There's also a ton of great content on this site, including a recording of every previous webinar that we've done. We've done this for, I don't know, 3 years now, I think. So there's a lot of content there. There's even one where our CEO appeared, where he covered the commercial aspects of Act Advantage, talking about packaging and pricing. So if you're interested, I encourage you to go to act.com/explore to check out those previous webinars. You can also email us at team@act.com. It's down here at the bottom of the screen. If you have suggestions or any ideas for future webinars like this, we really do love getting that feedback from you all. You're going to probably receive a survey at the conclusion of this webinar, so just please let us know how we did. We're really interested in producing and presenting the best content for you that we can. So thanks again for attending, everybody, today. Have a great day. We're going to stay on the call here to answer any remaining questions that might be in the Q&A session. But for the rest of you, take care. And for those of you in the US, have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you next month. Bye-bye.